Hello and welcome to Stretty News TV. My name is Dale. I'm with the panel and we're going to be previewing the Liverpool game this weekend at Old Trafford. I've got Ian from Reclaim United. How are you, Ian?
I'm good, Dale, thanks. I'm intrigued for this Liverpool game.
You looking forward to it then?
I'm not too sure if we're looking forward to it. I think we're looking forward to it more after that West Bromwich Albion win. But it's going to be an intriguing game to see how United can perform in what normally is a big game anyway, but it's an even bigger game. The consequences to Liverpool's season could be massive.
So John, you were at the West Brom game. What did you make of it?
The West Brom game was for this season. It was very impressive. Do you want me to elaborate on West Brom?
No, but with the performance in mind, does it make you look forward to the game this weekend more so?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Coming off the back of the West Brom result, as opposed to, for example, Olympiacos, definitely made us a bit more buoyant heading into this weekend, for sure.
So, are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, I mean, I think after the West Brom win, it's always going to be, good to have a bit of confidence under the lads' belts. I think, hopefully we can get a result. I know, we're kind of underdogs, and that might add, a little less pressure, put a little less pressure on United to try and get a result. Because it means less. It obviously means something to the fans, but it means less to our season than it does to Liverpool, who are actually, trying to get a title here. So hopefully we can try and dent their, chances.
So quickly, we're going to move on to Liverpool, who are in flying form at the minute and playing some great football under Brendan Rodgers. Ian, they're second in the table with the second best goal difference in the league. Do we need to be fearful of their attacking options?
I think you'd be completely out of your depth not to. Suarez and Sturridge have been mentioned, well, as far back as last season. In actual fact, it just didn't click for them last season. And even with Suarez's ban at the start of the season, when they've joined up straight away, they just fired on all cylinders and not stopped ever since. I think some neutrals would actually really like to see the fact that where would Liverpool be now if Suarez wouldn't have had his ban? That was 5 games at the start of the season he missed. That would have been an amazing amount of points. They could have been running away from the likes of Chelsea and Arsenal.
Yeah, definitely, and I think some of the fans will claim that they're title contenders this year. We're in the position they are in now, second place with such a strong goal difference. They are, and it's crazy to see that after so many years of being mediocre. And under Rodgers, they've really jumped a few steps forward. Johnny, can they win the league?
Can they win the league? Yeah, they're obviously not favourites, but yeah, certainly can. I can't remember who's playing here in like the top 3 or 4 sides, but I think you'd still have to say that Chelsea are favourites with the 9-point gap, even though City have got 3 games in hand. They've got the points in the bag, so I think it's unlikely they'll win it this year, but certainly it's given them a springboard for next year, and they'll be considered serious contenders for next year's Premier League if they're just pipped to it this year by Chelsea or City. So that's another viable contender for United when we're looking to strengthen over the summer, that we've got to kind of aspire to that kind of level next year.
Serge, Rodgers, as we mentioned, is doing a fantastic job with Liverpool, and when he got the job, they were quite close to getting Martinez, who Rodgers' previous job was there before Rodgers too, and installed the kind of philosophy of attacking football and keep ball, which we're kind of seeing in Spain right now. A lot of people put that shadow over Rodgers, and they kind of claim that he wasn't doing as good a job people thought he was. Do you think he's rubbished that claim with how well he is Liverpool playing and the position he has him in from the days that we've seen with Kenny Dalglish not so long ago and the outdated tactics we've seen?
I mean, you can see, after they got rid of the likes of Carroll and, the likes of, the other, naff footballer Stuart Downing and, whoever else who doesn't usually play on a regular basis. I think, under Rodgers, they've adapted a fantastic attacking style. And I think if they would have gone for Martinez, you would have got something very similar as well. Very similar product. I think it's ingrained within Liverpool's tactics and strategy to attack teams. They've got some top players within the squad. They've got really top professionals. Steven Gerrard, top professional. Suarez, we'll call him a top professional, but he's a top player. Sturridge, another top professional and top player. So I mean, they're all top. A lot of them have got very top players and a wealth of experience within the squad. So under Rodgers, they were always going to blossom. I think, especially with the style of football that he tries to instill within the squad. So yeah, no, I think it was a good appointment with Rodgers. And again, if they would have got Martinez, I think you would be looking at something very similar in terms of the end product.
In terms of top players, you say, Serge, that they have quite a few in professions with a wealth of experience. They do have a few signings that Rodgers made, or Hodgson made, and Dalglish made, that people criticised at the time. And one of them is Henderson, who has come on heaps and bounds this season, has become a regular. He's scoring goals, he's making assists, and he has a real place in the Liverpool team. Do you think it's down to Rodgers showing faith and confidence in these players that were so harshly, well, not harshly criticised, they were rightly criticised? But when you look at how they're playing now, it's a big difference to what they were playing previously. They look like it's the reason they're in second place and they're challenging.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate the comments on that. But if you want my personal opinion, obviously, a lot of people will disagree with me here, but I don't actually rate Henderson. I don't think he's good enough for Liverpool. I think he's playing on confidence. If you want my honest opinion.
One of their best players this season, though.
Yeah, I know. As I said, I think he's playing on confidence. He's playing out of his ability. Again, I don't rate him. I don't think, in my opinion, he'd get into United team. I think I describe him as a squad player, similar to Tom Cleverley. I wouldn't think he'd get into many top team squads. Fergie, was thinking about going in for him, but then some things went against him. Apparently, he ran from his knees or something or other, as he said in his book. Again, I'll say it over and over. I don't rate Jordan Henderson. I think he isn't top quality. If you mark him out the game, he isn't. His shooting abilities are atrocious. He can pass the ball and he can go into the space, but you've got to have more in your locker than just that, really.
Well, in a point, I can agree with you in a way that we went to Anfield later on this season, and before the game, Henderson was obviously in good form, and Liverpool fans were banging on about him, and he had an awful game against United. I think that was in October, and he was really, really poor, and some of the passing was really sloppy. But then immediately after, he was back into good form again. Whether it was the fact that we playing against Manchester United,
exactly.
We'll see this weekend.
Exactly, I agree with you, but I think you just got to appreciate, can he do it against the big teams? Yeah, it's all about doing it, out and out against the likes of Sunderland and, the likes of whoever else who was a mid-table team, West Brom or West Ham or whoever else. But when the push comes to the shove and you've got to play the likes of Chelsea, Manchester City, United, other top teams like Everton, don't rule them out. They'll be up there as well. Tottenham under Sherwood as well. So I just don't believe he is a good enough player. Sorry.
Well, I just wanted to interrupt on that one as well, Serge. Henderson's performance for England in the recent international against Denmark was noticeably missing. So is this there's probably a question really to Liverpool fans if they ever watch this. Is it more of a, is he not there for a big game or something? Like we've mentioned, he really not turn up for the types of teams that you'd expect a player in the first lineup of Liverpool to turn up for. But when it's an international game, it's a friendly against Denmark, there's not really any pressure on those sort of players apart from maybe the World Cup sort of pressure. But you'd think that his club form, like Dale's hinted on, at times this season has been good enough for him to be able to get his World Cup place. Why, when the pressure's off in an international like that, why is he just didn't turn up for me on that night, and it took for him to be substituted off and Lallana to come on for England to actually wake the hell up, and Lallana then actually for me sold himself a place on that plane to Brazil for the summer.
Apologise for the phone noise. We'll quickly move on. Going into the game this weekend, Liverpool fans have mocked up a banner which states sarcastically, "David Moyes, football genius." What's your overall reaction to that, John? Is it just a bit of fun, a bit of rivalry, or City did the same thing? Is it like wearing inflatable or banana suits? What way do you see it? It's just friendly rivalry, or can you see it as a bit of banter?
Yeah, no, I think it's pretty innocuous, isn't it? Like, David Moyes, football genius. I suppose it is moderately amusing in light of what we've seen this season, and I'm sure if the shoe were on the other foot, we'd be doing something very similar. So I think it'd be slightly hypocritical of us to criticise Liverpool fans there. I just think that's a bit of harmless fun.
Your thoughts, Ian?
Yeah, I think we've got to refer back to the previous banners between the clubs. Obviously, the United knocking Liverpool off the perch, and then obviously the banner they came back with, "Come back when you won 18." And then obviously after that, the United fans creeped into Anfield after we'd got the 19th title and hurled a banner over there. So I think it's just a rivalry banter that's gone between. To be honest, I think England's two greatest clubs, and that's really all that is. I think there'd be too many United fans probably reading into that for no reason at all. Maybe too many Liverpool fans get a bit over too giddy with it, but this is football, and banter and rivalries, what we all strive for when we become fans of football.
Before we move on solely to United, Serge, previous years, we all would have joked about this game coming up and saying it was Liverpool's cup final. Given what we've to play for, which is nothing, this for the rest of the season, is this our cup final? Have we something to prove against Liverpool, given the form they're in?
Just before you go there, Dale, very, very quickly. You can't. I mean, the point with the banner as well is you can't always you can't sanitise football. I was
going to agree with you.
You can't completely sanitise football. At the end of the day, as long as no one's referencing the kind of tragedies that have taken place at football clubs, then I think it's completely fine. In fact, it's to be promoted in a way.
I think with those chants, John, we can do so much to get rid of it, but you're always going to have idiots in both fan bases.
But you get that in all sports, Dale.
Oh yeah, no, you do. They're in a minority.
So we can't. I just think we can't tarnish everybody with one brush. We've got to we've got to do it as best as both teams can. There's always going to be idiots. So you've just got to ignore the idiots and take it for what it is. Really.
Yeah. I totally agree.
There's just no point dampening down football so that it just becomes not fun anymore. It kind of takes all the fun out.
Yeah. No, I agree. Back to your question, Serge.
Yeah, do you want to re-ask it? Sorry.
Yeah. In previous seasons, we would have joked at Liverpool kind of saying that this game coming up is their cup final. They would have had very little to play for, way lower on the table. As we are right now this season, we've nothing to play for. We're 7th. Do you see this as our kind of cup final? It's an important game to prove that we can still beat a team that are doing so well.
I mean, I think for me it's more, one may think it's a sad thing to say, but in the end, Liverpool are our rivals, and I think we will try and do all we can to try and dent their title hopes. And if I'm honest with you, if I'm completely blunt with you, we've got nothing to play for. Yeah. We'd like to get a win because we want to win anyway, because we all like to win. Man United is a winning team, and it's always been ingrained in our history. So we want the 3 points regardless of who we're playing. But just because it's Liverpool, it adds that extra spice. And knowing that the add-ons and the tag-ons or whatever that would lead on from the win, could mean Liverpool missing out on the title or missing out on on whatever. It's irrelevant who Man United are actually playing.
So on to United. United are welcoming Liverpool to Old Trafford, and it's a long time United welcome Liverpool to Old Trafford as underdogs. United are underdogs going into the game. Liverpool are favourites. John, can you remember the last time that was the case?
crikey, I'd have to have a think. But no, I don't like this. We've got nothing to play for, lads. We're still in the Champions League, aren't we?
It's not Champions League,
this
though.
isn't a Champions League game.
Well, I'm just saying if you're saying this is our cup final, surely the Champions League game against Olympiacos at Old Trafford is more important than playing Liverpool in a league game, which is fairly meaningless in comparison, I would say, personally. But in terms of underdogs, I can't remember. You're probably looking back at...
yeah, it is.
Probably have to go to the early 90s, yeah? Maybe 91, 92, maybe, when they would be the favourites at Old Trafford. It's a very peculiar situation, but I think there's a very good chance we'll get a result. And as Serge says, as he alluded to, hopefully we'll have a say in where the league title's going, preferably somewhere in London as opposed to the north.
Do you think we'll get a result, Ian?
I'd hope to say that, I predicted on Sunday that we'd scrape a 2-1 win. We seem to always have a thing for scoring last-minute ditch headers and all sorts of shenanigans going on against Liverpool. And you'd hope that we can come up with some sort of good to gain. Like Jonathan's mentioned now, we've got it. We're a team of winning. Oh no, Serge mentioned it. We're a team of winners. And this has been a extremely bad season, but we're tarnishing this on the past 20 odd years of winning, and this has come a shock to many of United fans. But this isn't a complete change of character for United. United have always won things. Go back through United's history. We've always won things. We've had our bad periods and our periods where we've gone on dry spells, but we've always come back and won things. And I think if we show some more fight for wanting to win games, I think we got got really little bits about that against West Brom. But just a bit more emphasis, on trying to score some more goals constantly wouldn't be amiss. I think you've got to really enjoy playing your football. I think we only really enjoy playing football when you're winning. So I think as a morale booster and confidence across the team, which we actually saw when that second goal went in against West Brom, the players started. Carrick played. I don't think he played anything beyond superb after that. Afterwards, he was just, in actual fact, I'd say he was unplayable after that. But that's confidence was the same with Fellaini. He'd stopped jumping into tackles at 100 miles an hour. He was, more confident on the ball, things like that. Those things will hopefully be a catalyst for another win. And then hopefully, another win after that will be another win against West Ham and City to follow. And then Olympiacos again. Sasama and Till, lots of missing meds.
Yeah. So Serge, you've already mentioned Liverpool's key elements in their squad and their attacking threat. Should United go into this game focusing on ourselves and our attacking players and just go for it, or should we be more wary, typical David Moyes, being wary of the opponent's threats?
I mean, I think we've actually got to look at the fact that we've actually, again, not got much to play for this season, bar the fact we might actually have fourth place to play for, in terms of some kind of miracle happening. But saying that, I think we should be going for the throats. Really, I mean, we've got nothing to lose, so why wouldn't we go for the win? I'd like to see some of our more attacking players on the field, see what we can get out of Liverpool's defence. They're not known for being fantastically at the back with the likes of Kolo Touré. And a few others who aren't necessarily fantastic. So I feel why can't we get a result against Liverpool if we play our attacking players?
John, we already mentioned that you were at the game at the Hawthorns. David Moyes' approach going into this game, and I think everyone's covered that the game against West Brom was one of United's best performances of the season, and it was a good win as well, 3-0. Do you think he should take the tactic, the way he set up, and the approach he had. I think the third goal had something like 11 passes, and 7 of them being for one touch. I think you should take that element that'll actually work, this creative streak he had against West Brom, into this game, or is he going to sit back and be more wary because it's against Liverpool and not West Brom?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Liverpool, obviously offer a lot more attacking promise than West Brom do, so we'll have to be more cautious. But no, hopefully, like Serge said, we definitely want to show our own attacking prowess. There were some really positive signs at West Brom between, as we've labelled them, the quartet. In the second and third goal, I think in the second goal there was a nice 1-2 between Wayne and Mata, and in the third goal, everyone linked up really. But there was some really nice. We saw some glimpses of the potential there moving forward between those four. So ideally, he'll play the same four again, potentially with the only difference of Welbeck in place of RVP, obviously, whose attitude is questionable at the moment. But yeah, no, that we should definitely show our own attacking prowess, particularly because we're playing at home. And like Serge said, this isn't a pressurised situation of us having to get a result here in the game. We can go out and express ourselves.
Yeah. Before we go on to the questions to the viewers, I'm going to get the panel's starting 11 for the game against Liverpool. So Ian, you kick us off.
I'm going to start off De Gea in net. Oh, in actual fact, I've got the wrong team up on that one. There we go. De Gea in net. Raphael, Smalling, Vidic, Evra in the back. Carrick, Fellaini dropping in the middle. Mata, Rooney, Januzaj, and Welbeck up top.
Why Welbeck?
I just think that at times that Van Persie's looking a bit out of sorts at times, and he seems to be a bit too far out of the pitch. Welbeck is more of a worker. He likes to get in and around constantly. So I think he provides more of a. I'm not saying that Van Persie's not a team player by any stretch of the imagination, because he's such a great player, but I just think that middle three, that forward three, are just not getting close enough to providing him with the right things at the moment, and maybe Welbeck dropping back a bit further and mixing it around a bit, and his work rate to run round will create something a bit different up there.
Serge, you're starting 11.
Well, I think I'd probably start with, obviously I'd start with De Gea in goal. Right back I'd have Raphael, and then would actually switch up Smalling for Nemanja Vidic. I want Nemanja Vidic in the squad. I don't really rate Smalling, if you want my honest opinion. Don't really believe he's a Man United quality type player. I want Vidic playing alongside Phil Jones, who is very gutsy and will put his body on the line. He'll always, if he goes off injured or if he goes off, he's always going to put in a shift. So I like Phil. I like Phil, and he can also be a ball playing defender as well, coming forward. Evra as well, bombing up and down the wings, maybe bobbing up the wings rather than down. Back down the wing, he kind of gets caught a lot at the back. In midfield, I'd like to see Fellaini and Carrick. I like that. I like that partnership they had going at the Hawthorns. So who says they can't play together? Fellaini looked really top against West Brom, so I'd like to see him carry that confidence into the Liverpool game. Again, we've got nothing to lose, so I want Januzaj playing left mid, and Mata on the right, and Mata cutting inside whenever possible, with Wayne Rooney just in front of them. And up top, believe it or not, I'm choosing Robin Van Persie. I believe he can get the goals in the big games. I think Welbeck's a bit of a, not a bit of a, but he is uncomposed up front, I would say. He's raw talent. I'm not saying he's not talented. I'm not saying he's not a good player. I think he's a very good player. He's a workaholic. He puts in a shift for the team. Unfortunately, his finishing isn't up to scratch just yet. He scored a great goal against West Brom, but I'd like to see a bit more of that before he claims his, a first team regular place within the squad. Obviously, Van Persie's ageing, so I'd put him on the bench though, as well as Kagawa. I like it when Kagawa came on against the Hawthorns as well.
Just on that, you did mention about Evra and his being troublesome and getting back in time. He gets caught out quite a lot. someone fans will be rubbing their hands, looking at Raheem Sterling and the pace he carries. If you look at Lennon with Spurs, the past few seasons, he's been an absolute nightmare for Evra. Do you think Sterling could cause the same threat? Because obviously, United, who else are going to play? You're not going to play Butner in a game against Liverpool.
No, I appreciate that. But again, you've got to look at how old Raheem is. I'd like to think everyone would use his experience over Raheem to try and try and ensure that keep him at bay and make sure he isn't able to get into those channels where he is dangerous. I mean, I think Raheem's only really put in top performances against the lesser teams. I've not really seen him come up against the big teams unless anybody can state otherwise. You're more than welcome to, but I haven't seen
comment section.
Yeah, comment on the section below and tell me I'm wrong. But I haven't seen him play fantastically well against the big 4 or 5 or 6. How many teams are now going for those positions. So I think Evra will hopefully have him in his back pocket. He had a great performance against West Brom, Patrice Evra. So I'd like to see the boys again carry the confidence into this game, and hopefully Moyes will carry on with a bit of consistency within the squad. So who says we can't win?
Johnny, starting 11.
Yeah, very similar with the 4-2-3-1 formation. Obviously, De Gea in net, Raphael, Smalling and Jones in the middle. I'd like to see them. I thought they were very solid at West Brom. Evra left back, and then Fellaini, Carrick, and then ahead of them Mata, Rooney, and Januzaj on the left. And I'd probably go with Welbeck, just because when he did come on against West Brom, we were just a lot more fluid. And obviously no one's questioning him. Robin's talent, he's hugely talented, but it just seems like he's quite discontent at the moment, and we could do with Welbeck's work rate in a game like this.
You do talk about Van Persie, and we can bring up, say, his attitude and being discontent at this current time. When I do look at Welbeck, he's obviously a manc lad, brought up as a Red, and a game like this, the big games always appeal to the likes of Welbeck. Look at the Bernabeu last year, he had a big stage and he really showed up, he was raring to go. I think that could be a similar case against like Liverpool, growing up in a city like Manchester and hating Liverpool.
Oh, absolutely. Welbeck is inherently Manchester United. He's Manchester United through and through. Not just against teams like Liverpool. You look at his celebration against West Brom, for which was the 3rd goal when the game, to all intensive purposes, was over, and he celebrated it as if it was the first goal at the Bernabeu. He just loves the club. He loves playing for Manchester United, and he's almost like the antithesis of Robin van Persie at the moment in terms of his attitude. Robin, no one's questioning his talent, but if he's not going to be willing to play for the badge, then I'm not sure why he should get in ahead of Welbeck, especially because that finish from Welbeck was world class. And if he can take the confidence from that into the Liverpool game, I think he will be able to finish a 1-on-1 if he gets the chance.
Absolutely. On to my starting 11, it's David De Gea in goal, Raphael, Chris Smalling, Johnny Evans, and Patrice Evra in the back 4. 2 in front of the back 4 are Carrick and Fellaini. Then a 3 with Mata, Rooney, and Ashley Young. Up top alone is Danny Welbeck. And the reason I picked Young is he's a big game player. If you look at Ferguson, he always played Young in the big games. Well capable of tracking back and helping out Evra, which I've touched on with Serge, with Raheem Sterling with so much pace. Young is the type of winger that has no problem whatsoever in getting back and offering that bit of support. Welbeck up top, I shared similar views to Johnny and Ian. Van Persie is discontent at the moment, and he seems against West Brom that he was giving in these half-arsed attempts and his mind wasn't really in it for me. He's pushing his ties out the pram at some stage too, and I actually called on Twitter it's time to get Welbeck on. 5 minutes later Moyes brought him on. Happy to see it, and it pulled off. Welbeck came on and he scored a great finish. He worked really hard, and I think the main thing I see about Van Persie, and when Moyes plays a lot of wit in his game, sometimes Van Persie tends to drift out. There's very little inside the box, and we're a team giving in so many crosses. We need the players inside the box, and Welbeck plays that role so well and working hard in and around the box. So I think it's quite important.
Can I just just butt in there? I mean, I just feel Van Persie had many chances at the Hawthorns. If you actually look at Match of the Day and their analysis, he had lots of chances in and around the box. Fortunately, his first touch and a couple of other his control or whatever let him down on a number of occasions. I think that could have been to do with the international week during obviously, and he played a full 90 minutes, and apparently he was also ill the day before or the day after. I'm unsure. So I think that
myositis.
But I mean, I think the point is the fact that, again, you can't rule out as Ron Van Persie as being a big game player. You say Danny Welbeck will become raring to go because he's a mank lad and whatnot. Ron Van Persie will be equally as raring to go. He wants to play in the big games. He's a big game player. He gets the goals against the big teams. I mean, look at Chelsea last year. Look at Liverpool at home last year. Look at City away last year. He scored a number of goals which are really vitally important in our season. So
what about Arsenal away, Serge, when he missed the chance and his attitude stank the whole night as well?
Yeah, fine. I don't know whether his attitude stank the whole night.
That was a few games ago, and that was a big game, wasn't it?
No, I accept that, but again, he scored at Arsenal last season. He scored a penalty. Look, my point is that
that's last season.
Okay, scored against Arsenal this season.
And he
scored at home against Arsenal this season. Look, my point is not whether he's pushing his toys out the pram or whatever you want to say. He wants to play in the big games just like any other player at Manchester United Football Club, and I'd like to see him up front. I just feel Danny Welbeck is a bit raw. He can inject a bit of pace into the game when he comes on. I don't know whether he can do it for the full 90 minutes. I just feel Van Persie would be the better option in my own opinion.
Right, we're going to move on to the questions. The first question comes from Danish. Do you think Liverpool will finish above United next season? Please be honest, he asked. I'm going to go to Serge first. Do you think United's form will continue next season under Moyes, or do you think we'll buckle up a bit and finish above Liverpool?
Well, I mean, if you're going to tell me that we're going to be doing the same thing next year, I don't think you'd be saying the same thing about David Moyes, because David Moyes won't be there next year if we're still playing under the same terrible games we've had this season. I don't think he'll be there next year if that's the case. But next year, I think, as I said, I mean, this transfer window coming up is probably going to be the most important transfer window in the whole of Manchester United's history. So I can't say whether we're going to do fantastic. I don't know. That is my honest opinion. I don't know where we'll be next season, because the players that he brings in might need time to settle, and might need time to to get to know the squad, to get to know how Moyes is going to play. There's so many reasons and so many different things that happen at the club that obviously we don't know about. That could either ensure that we are doing fantastic next season, or it might see a bit of a few drab performances next season. I don't know. That's my honest opinion. I can't call it.
We do have quite a few questions to get through, some longer than others, so I'm going to go to Ian and John then quickly. Will United finish above Liverpool next season? Ian.
So he's sort of nailing it with, you can't really guess, and also on the facts of the players that come in. But I think if Liverpool are going to be, as we mentioned before, contenders and serious contenders at that next season, then you'd hope that United could match that next season. That this would be a one-season blip. And then to go back to Serge's point, if this is not a one-season blip and United are not back up there as title contenders next season, then there's going to be a change of manager.
In terms of blip though, Jonathan, we're talking about United's current blip now, but the last time Liverpool actually challenged was 2009 against United, and then the season after that they were back to their usual ways and they were mid-table again. Do you think United or Liverpool under Rodgers will continue this trend and stay in the top four or challenging?
Yeah, I mean, all the signs are positive from a Liverpool perspective, and they all suggest that they will continue to improve. I think it's, again, echoing the sentiments of Serge and Ian, it's a very, very difficult question to answer because it does all depend on the transfer movement this summer. But I think if you're looking at the question on the surface, I think you'd have to say, yeah, Liverpool will be favourites to finish ahead of us next year, unfortunately. You'd have to say Liverpool, if they can push on, will likely finish in the top 3 next year, definitely top 4. And United, we hopefully, obviously, will be getting in the top 4 next year. But I think on the evidence of what we've seen so far this season, I think you'd have to say Liverpool are favourites to finish ahead of us without knowing, obviously, any summer signings yet.
On to the next questions from Tom Simpson. Going to go to Serge first because it kind of relates to what he said in his answer. Will a heavy defeat to Liverpool at home force the board to sack David Moyes?
No, that's a silly thing to say. We've seen enough bad games this season, and the board haven't been hasty enough to sack David Moyes on one result. I think that's if you want my honest opinion, I think it's a bit of a silly question.
The one thing I will say, Serge, though, if you look back at Dave Sexton, the summer he was sacked, he went on, I think it was a 7-game unbeaten run before the season ended, and in that, I think he bet Liverpool at home 1-0.
Look, I mean, I'm not saying who's going to beat who and whatnot, but what I will say is the board are strong. The board aren't silly. They're not going to make rash decisions now because they've lost to Liverpool when there's nothing to play for. It's just, if you want my honest opinion, it's a bit of a silly question. I think you should have thought about it. Actually thought the question through before asking it. I mean, if there's nothing to play for, I understand that they're the rivals and everything, but obviously if we lose to Liverpool this season at home, you kind of get over it after a couple of weeks or whatever.
I think we've got one more comment. They're going to be tweeting Serge out this week.
I'm not bothered. They can tweet what they want.
Ian, your thoughts? If they're not going to sack, say, reacting rashly straight away, do you think a heavy defeat to Liverpool will make them maybe assess it more so in the summer?
I think they're probably going to assess it throughout the rest of the season. Serge's probably going to disagree with me on this one, but I think if you're not going to get someone that can City's Olympiacos, there's still big games that have still got to come up. The Olympiacos does actually mean something to United season still, because if that tie can be overturned, then hang on a minute, United are into a quarter-final spot in the Champions League. Where did that come from? If then it's a heavy loss in the next round, then maybe they do start to, and I do think that the board are continuously over analysing what goes on. I think the only thing that's probably saved Moyes up to this point, maybe because, like I've mentioned in previous podcasts and things that we've done, debates and stuff, that the Glazers are quite rash in their change of in coaches and stuff at Tampa. So I think that the saving grace is the fact that it was Fergie's choice. Fergie, maybe Bobby Charlton too. I sat on that board backing Moyes for the rest of the season, and maybe it'll be them that have the say again in the summer that says, hang on a minute, give him the millions to go and spend, see what he does for the first half of next season, and see where we are again next season. If that actually puts us in the same position next season, then you've not fixed the problem. You've just spent a lot of money on some decent players, hopefully, and then you bring in the right man to replace him. Right,
Ian, obviously on the same thing, and you're firmly Moyes in and that brigade, and you're training young Ralph in the same way, Moyes in. With this question, would you draw tears, say, in the summer, if they did assess it and it did result to David Moyes getting the sack and the manager like say Klopp was brought in?
I don't think you be too tearful over it. I don't think the United fans have actually got too much of a connection with Moyes. A lot of them have come across and gone, no, he wasn't the man that I would have picked. Mourinho, Guardiola at the time, if we spoke to Raphael about, he was a choice at one point, a candidate for that role. A lot of Reds will be saying he wasn't the man in the first place. I personally wouldn't be crying tears over it. I wouldn't like to see it happen to Moyes in a way that would happen, that he gets one season and he's shipped out. But this is the Premier League nowadays, and I think United have got to find a way, and I think you've got to give him at least the rest of this season, half of next season, and go from there. I don't think this is going to be a case of seeing what happens in the summer. I think you'd be a bit. I don't know.
Can I
go on, Serge.
I mean, in terms of tears for David Moyes, we're not talking about Alex Ferguson, who managed the team for however long he did. Tens of years. And it's a silly thing to say. Would you draw tears of David? No, because we obviously, again, just adding to what Ian said, we've not got a connection with David Moyes, so it's irrelevant. I don't think Chelsea fans would cry if Mourinho left this season. My point is,
well, you do hear a lot of United fans bang on about a certain myth that we don't sack managers. That's where this question's coming from. This tradition that we never sack a manager. That specific tradition. If you stand by a manager that is the wrong man for the job, I'm not saying he is. If he is the wrong man for the job and you stand by him, that tradition can lead to a club's downfall.
Fine, but I think the point is that those fans are probably the young fans who have only ever known Alex Ferguson. Including myself, I've only ever known Alex Ferguson since I was young. But I think the point is again, Moyes needs time. Moyes needs time to rebuild the squad that are going to play for Man United. They're going to be playing for David Moyes, not under Alex Ferguson. You've got to get rid of the players that have only ever known Alex Ferguson, and they can't play under a different manager because they're so used to a certain regime, and that's just the way it is. And that's the reality of the situation. Whether you like it or not, we're not going to play like the Alex Ferguson style football. I hate that stupid song. Come on, David Moyes, play like Fergie boys. No, play like David Moyes' boys.
No, please don't.
Yeah, play like David Moyes' boys, because he's been brought in to do a job. And if the board didn't believe in his own tactics and his own strategy to be able to run a team and to run a game, then they shouldn't have hired him in the first place. But
right, we're going to move on to the next question because we've a fair bit to get through still. I'm going to go to John first. Mohammed Seif asked, why isn't Kagawa being properly used?
It's a great question. I'm a big advocate of Kagawa. I'm a big fan. I thought it was a great shame that he didn't play in Olympiacos, given that Mata was cut-tied like the majority of Reds, really. And then that sort of viral video came out the ensuing couple of days after the game, which really kind of reinforced all Reds' feelings about the matter that Kagawa should have been playing. Basically, he was finding space every time he got the ball. It looked as if we were creating things, but unfortunately, the team was bypassing him at times. But yeah, it's a great question. I'm a big fan of him. When he played against, I think it was Swansea in the second half, when he switched in with Adnan. He was instrumental in that game, and yeah, the glimpses we've seen of him in the sort of central roles, he's looked really, really promising for me. So I'd like to see more of Kagawa.
Ian, you a fan of Kagawa?
Yeah, I'm a major fan of Kagawa. I think, unfortunately, he's not shown the glimpses of him himself that he was at Borussia Dortmund in that season where Borussia Dortmund won the league. But as Jonathan's, put points on there, he's a great player. He gets into space and he moves and passes, and he was doing exactly the same when he came on at West Brom. And he actually, I think, I'm not too sure if he was involved in our third goal, but I think just having someone that creatively passes and moves like that, actually, it brings more fluid football to the rest of the team. If you actually watch that third goal, it starts off with Fellaini and an interception next to our box, and it gets passed around about 20 passes around the pitch before it ends up in Welbeck's feet. It was just really good fluid football. It was the best team goal that I've seen United score all season. Was that anything to do with Kagawa being on the pitch? Maybe not, but if you bring someone on like that who can create that space, and you don't have to create space for a pass to come to you, you can create a space for someone else to bring a pass into someone else. And I think he does that as well. You know, people talk about forwards making space and running across the paths of other players. I think Kagawa does that because you've got to constantly be on tap with him. You've got to be around him to figure out what he's doing next. And sometimes he's outthought you and outthought another defending player. So yeah, he's definitely a player I'd like to see more of in the coming days. And I think Moyes has actually alluded to say that he would get some more time on the pitch throughout the rest of the season.
Just seeing as the last question is so long, I'm going to go to Serge first, and before we wrap it up. Serge, Liverpool this weekend, starting 11 combined with the both teams. Go through your team.
I really like that question. You know, obviously me being a Man United fan, you know, I'm always going to be a bit biased towards United. There's always going to be a bit of a bias twist. But I will pick De Gea in goal. Right back, I'm going to pick Raphael. Yes, at times he's not been as good, so I think he's very head-to-head with Johnson. Johnson can also have a couple of bad games. Centre-backs, I'll pick Vidic and Agger with Evra alongside them, mainly because I don't really rate Enrique. And then in centre-mids, I have Gerrard and Carrick. And then in midfield, I'd have Mata on the right, RVP kind of coming through the centre, backing up Suarez, who I put up front, and on the left I have Wayne Rooney. So that's a really attacking lineup with Mata, RVP, Rooney and Suarez. Now, if that's not going to win, you know...
Rooney on the left.
Rooney on the left. He's played on the wing before. Why can't he do it again?
Talking about United, though, would you do it now to accommodate either Mata or either Kagawa through centre?
Well, I mean, you've told me to compare the two squads, Liverpool and
I'm asking the question though, if you had to do it now to make room to see Mata in his perhaps better position or to see Kagawa in his main position, would you accommodate him by putting Rooney on the left in the United team?
When we signed Mata, I would have said yes. I don't see why not. Yes, Wayne Rooney's an out-and-out goal scorer, but he's also a fantastic creative midfielder at times. He can ping passes left and right. He's got a bit of it, you know, it may sound a bit weird, but he's got a bit of a Scholes-esque type to his game where he can just, you know, he's a bit of a sat-nav, he can just pick out passes left and right, you know, bring him over. So I personally would put him there. I mean, maybe a lot of people would disagree with me, but I want to see Mata in his perfect position, right in behind the striker, right in behind RVP, Rooney just to the left of him or to the right of him, and Januzaj on the other side. But, you know, as I said, this was the team I picked. De Gea, Raphael, Vidic, Agger and Evra, Gerrard and Carrick, Mata, RVP, Rooney and Suarez up front.
What's your team, John?
Well, first of all, obviously, we'd have to have Moyes over Rodgers as the manager. And that has to be stated before we go on. I think I know sort of all this evolutionary football, this 4-2-3 and all that nonsense. I'm a traditionalist. I'd have to go 4-4-2. I grew up sort of early 90s and beyond where it's kind of 4-4-2 was ingrained in me. And that's some of the best football I've seen was with that formation.
Have you seen the Dave Bassett programme where he goes, we're going to play 4-4 effing 2? It's a great film. Watch Dave Bassett, guys. Mike Bassett.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah, very funny. Yeah. No, but yeah, I'd go De Gea obviously in goal, Raphael right back, and then I go Agger and Jones centre back, obviously pending on Jones's fitness. Enrique left back because I just think he's probably, not even having seen him, I'm just conjecturing that he's less mistake prone than Evra. Sterling on the right. I go with the four in the midfield. Sterling on the right, Januzaj on the left. Probably a bit of a diamond midfield though, with Gerrard holding a little bit, really ahead of him. Because obviously Gerrard, as he's matured and as his body probably doesn't permit him, he's more of a defensive midfielder now. So that would give Rooney licence to get forward quite a lot. And then we'd go with Suarez and RVP, which could be devastating if they were working in tandem. So yeah.
John, just an interruption there. We already hear the keyboard warriors, so I can only imagine the comments we're going to get after this. Ian, you're starting 11.
My starting 11. I'm actually going back to the question was originally for 4-2-3-1. But yeah, I'm going back to De Gea in net, Rafael, Skrtel, Vidic, and Enrique at the back. Skrtel for me, a lot of United fans don't like him because of his times that he's been extremely rough on United strikers. He is a bit pig-headed, but you've got to be a bit pig-headed. Look at Vincent Kompany at City. He's another one that you can actually say he's quite pig-headed, and I think that's the only thing that sort of misses out of Vidic's games at times, that he's not. But he plays the role of a captain and right, truly. So I think those two, having that contrast but in the same style of players, really work together quite well. Enrique over Evra this season is without a doubt, especially in Evra's defending. Gerrard and Carrick I've gone for in the middle. Like we say, Gerrard has dropped into this deeper role this season, as is Carrick in actual fact. But I think that Gerrard's range of passing, as we've actually alluded with Rooney's range of passing before, Serge mentioned. But yeah, Gerrard can do the same, especially wide. And my front three, just before I put my top one on, is Mata, Rooney and Januzaj, so that Rooney can roam around wherever he likes and the other two can do what they like too.
I've gone for the same formation.
Hang on a minute, I've not finished.
Go on.
I've missed that main man. That Suarez, unfortunately.
That's why I ended up.
Right. Yeah, unfortunately, it'd have to be Suarez on his goal scoring form this season.
I have the same formation. David De Gea, Rafael, Johnny Evans, Agar, Enrique. Enrique, I think if you look back the last 2, maybe 3 years of Evra, he's hasn't been too good defensively. And Enrique is quite the unit. 2 in front of the back 4, Gerrard and Carrick, everyone's went for that. It's a no-brainer. The 3 ahead of that, all United. You got Mata, you got Rooney and Januzaj. And up top, you've got Suarez. Suarez, Suarez is world class. I think we all hate him.
But what? Diving, biting.
I'm not going to say the rest. We get in trouble.
Top professional.
A gentleman of the game. So we're going to wrap it up. Just make sure you subscribe to Stretty News. You're going to see more previews like this, and make sure you add comments. We'll pick out the best comments for next week's preview to Olympiacos, and obviously a double header because we've City also. Plug your Twitter, guys. Ian, what's your Twitter name?
At Ian Patson MU.
Jonathan?
At Jonathan Schrager. I'll let you guess how you spell that.
Serge?
Mine's even worse, Schrager. It's at Serge Fagelman. Good luck.
All of the Twitter links will be all put in the description, so you don't mind the spelling. Thanks for viewing. As said, like, subscribe and comment to Stretty News TV. Thank you.
But heaven knows I'm miserable now. I was looking for a job and then I